Today I'm going to show you how to turn one plant into many plants by taking and rooting softwood cuttings. Believe me, it's easier than you think. So what is a cutting? Well, a cutting is a piece of plant that you remove and then encourage to form roots of its own. And a softwood cutting is just that. It's a cutting taken during the height of the growing season when the plant tissue is soft to the touch and malleable. When we get on into autumn and winter, then you can take hardwood cuttings, particularly of hardy deciduous plants that lose their leaves, but they are nothing more than hard sticks and they will root. Softwood cuttings though, anytime really between April and September, these fleshy shoot tips that with a bit of care and attention, I'll show you exactly what, will form roots of their own and therefore new plants. It's a wonderful way of making more plants for very little cost and, to be honest, not much effort. Cuttings are always taken from perennial plants, plants that will keep on growing indefinitely for several years. There wouldn't be much point in taking an annual cutting, would there? You grow annuals from seed for one season and then they die. Perennials though, a lot of them, you can keep going and creating new plants from cuttings. Plants get tired, they get old. I've got one or two older ones in here because I really rather like them when they get statuesque like that. But those shoot tips on that pelargonium there, which is an almost tree-like one, they could be taken off as cuttings, and I grew in fact these plants from cuttings. But I quite like one or two that are tall and leggy like that. I'm looking at this plant in front of me here. This is a pelargonium called Attar of Roses. It's one of the scented leaved varieties. Not all of them are. A lot of them are just grown for flower, like these zonal pelargoniums. But this one, if you rub the leaf, it does smell of roses, it really does, or rosy perfume. So what I'm going to do is just look at this and take off some shoot tips which I know I can make into new plants. So let me show you what you're looking for. You're looking for stems of reasonable thickness and also a few joints on them. So your cutting when you finish will be between 3 and 4 inches long. That's between 8 and 10 centimetres. So I'm looking for shoots that will give me that. Make your cut just above that leaf there. If I made it there, that would die back. I don't want that. So I'm going to cut just above that leaf joint there. So that shoot there will grow out. So there is my cutting. In fact, look at that. I can get 2 off that if I'm crafty. So what I want is 3 or 4 to fill a single pot full out there. Right, I'm going to prepare my pot of compost. Plenty of drainage holes in the bottom, don't need any crock in there. Fill it up with seed and cuttings compost. Now the thing about seed and cuttings compost is it's well drained and it doesn't have too much in the way of nutrients in it. These plants need moisture to draw the roots out rather than any food at the moment. So there we are, there's my pot, ready to take them. I need now to prepare them, and that means getting them to the right length with the right amount of leaf left on and the right amount of leaf taken off. Now this cutting here, I can get 2 for the price of 1 because there's a big leaf joint there at the bottom and 2 shoots coming out of it. The thing about leaf joints is that is where there is the most capability of rooting in terms of hormones within the stem on the plant, more so than between 2 joints. If you take a cutting and you make it internodally, these are called nodes, the joints on the stem, take an internodal cutting and the propensity is for that piece to rot up to there. So if you always make your cutting just below a leaf joint, that cutting will stand much more chance of rooting well. Take the flowers off, and on pelargoniums they break off quite neatly like that. There's another one up here. Just snap them and you'll find they come off quite cleanly. If they don't, on other plants you can cut them off with your knife. Then it's a matter of removing some of the lower leaves. On plants where they won't pull off easily, you can cut them off as close to the stem as possible. But pelargonium leaves, rather like those flowers, will just pop off if you pull them. Just a couple more to come off. It's a balancing act, this, really. You need to leave enough leaves on the top to photosynthesize, to make food to pass down the stem to encourage rooting. But not so many that they lose moisture faster than they can take it up. That's about right. And now I'm ready to turn that into 2 cuttings. I can actually make just 1 cut here. There, and then I'm going to separate the 2. So they've both got a bit of leaf joint below them, which means they've both got the potential to root. It's important that your knife is really sharp, so it cuts cleanly through just below those leaf joints rather than crushing them, because if they're crushed, they'll rot. There we are, 4 cuttings, potentially 4 new plants. I'm going to insert them right around the edge because that's where drainage is fiercest. Slide the dibber in, and then as the dibber comes out, slide the cutting in so that it sits with the leaves just above the surface of the compost. And I'll get all 4 cuttings here around the edge of this pot. 1 out, 1 in. Water it in. These are hair-relieved plants, pelargoniums, particularly the scented leaved ones. For plants that aren't hairy, you can put a polythene bag over the top to keep the moisture in. Do that with pelargoniums though, and they tend to rot. So what to do with this now is to water it and put it on a windowsill in reasonably bright light but not scorching sunshine. Keep that compost damp and you'll find that soon, in a few weeks' time, they'll start to grow away. And that way, you know you've got new plants, and you can tap them out once growth has started and pot them up individually. There you are. I told you it was easy. Gardening is my passion, and I want to share it with you. So subscribe now, and let's get gardening together.